game I created, I should say. Lenses.
So when it talks about lenses, I base so for each course I would always talk about like game design lecture, and then we go over programming stuff, and I based it on a book called the art of game design, a book of lenses, where it looks at the game design process through like different lenses, and I had him pick out some of his favorite ones, and he's gonna talk about them.
The lens of flow. So basically, the lens of flow is, okay, how is the video game progressing? Like, what goal is the player trying to reach? So like, are you trying to do this to get to, are you trying to get to point A to point B to point C? What's the clear objective? And if there's no like clear objective, then there's no flow, and if there's no flow, then the player really won't be interested in that said game because there needs to be a sense of flow. Yeah. The lens of fairness. The lens of fairness comes in with like game balancing. So like, how can it be fair to this player or to certain players? For example, like challenges. For example, how can I make this challenge interesting and engaging, but not too difficult to the point where the player just loses interest in that said game? And symmetrical. Basically, think of like a board game, for example. It's like it could be like 2 players, it could be 4 players. Basically, they're all playing by the same rules. Like you basically start off with the same resources in each board game, obviously, but you know, another player might have a disadvantage and the other player might have an advantage. And asymmetrical is basically different characters overall, like different sets of rules, or like playable characters might do something different than other characters. That's what the asymmetrical thing is. The lens of moments. Basically, the lens of moments are basically like what's important in that game, what makes that game kind of stand out from the rest. What's that key part that makes it memorable, I should say. And how can I make that powerful for the player to engage with it? The lens of freedom. I would say basically the lens of freedom is what can the player do in the game and what can they not do. So like they can do this but they can't do any of that. So there's a set of rules they have to go by. That's where the lens of freedom comes in. And like because they're gonna feel constrained in some areas, but other than that, that's where the whole lens of freedom comes in. The lens of help. It's basically how does the player want to help the NPC? Because like we all want to feel helpful with something, obviously. But how can we be helpful to that NPC? Well, it could be in a side quest, it could progress the story in some way, shape, or form. But other than that, what that does is like it connects you to that person. It makes you feel connected to that whole world by just helping that NPC out. The lens of responsibility. So that's basically saying how does the game help people? How, like if a person were to play the game, it can help them improve on their own self or give them new insight that they've never seen before. So it can, where that comes in is basically to improve any aspect of your life. The lens of the Raven. Is this game worth my time? So what this means right here is that you're basically saying, okay, do I have enough time to make this game work when I have other responsibilities outside of me making this game? So being social, having home responsibilities, any stuff like that, any other responsibility you have, do you have enough time to also focus on this game? Because if you don't have enough time to focus on the game, well, is it really worth your time? Yeah. the lens of your secret purpose. So like, why are you building this game? What goal do you have in mind? What goal are you trying to set when you make this game? So that all comes back to like, I guess storyboarding. Like, what do you want the game genre to be? The gameplay, the aesthetics, the character designs, the story, visuals. All you gotta like write that down so you have like an idea on where to leap off of or where to go with that purpose. I guess. 10 rules of probability.
Now, just a fair warning. This is gonna be gonna be a bit much. gonna tackle some hard concepts here, but we got it.
Rule 1. Fractions equal decimals equals percent. So basically, see it as this. 5/10 are equal to 0.5, which is also equal to 50%. They're all the same, basically, even though they're different. And rule 2 is probabilities of 0 to 1. So basically what that is, there can be no less than 0, but there can be no more than 100, basically. Rule 3 is probability of sought outcomes. Probability is sought outcomes divided by true outcomes. So, what that basically means is, if I were to get a dice, per se, let's say I wanted to get a 6, right? And if I roll that out, as you can see, it's not a 6. Even though the 6 was my desired outcome, this is what we got.
To kind of add on to that, in the sense that sought outcome was getting the 6, and there's 6 possible outcomes from rolling a 6-sided dice, so that probability would be 1/6.
Rule 5.
4.
Oh, 4. Enumeration can solve simple problems, really. So, enumeration in itself is basically listing those problems, or you're making a list of those problems, basically. And, rule 5. Solved outcomes are mutually exclusive. So, to draw back to this board right here, so if I wanted to roll either a 6 or a 3, this is where the possible chance comes in, and if you add that and divide that, you have like a 33% chance of either getting a 6 or a 3. So if I were to test this out, I have 2 dice right here. I want to get either a 6 or a 3. So if I were to roll that out, that's not a 3 or a 6, but I have one more chance to get either one of those numbers. As you can see, it's also not a 6 or a 3. So, like with the OR comes in, you have a second chance to get either a 6 or a 3, one of those numbers. And
So, and to add a little more to that, because if your sought outcome it has an or, those probabilities you want to add them together. So 1 out of 6 chance to get a 6 or a 3. Since they're mutually exclusive and or, we add them together, and then it's 2 6 simplified down. It's 1/3.
Rule 6. When solved outcomes are not mutually exclusive, multiply their probabilities. So, what that means is, did I see your marker right there? Thank you. So, you remember this 1/3 from this equation right here? So if we were to get this 1/3 and multiply it by this, you get 1/18. Now you're probably thinking, what does that 1/18 mean? That's the chance you have of getting a 6 and a 3. So basically, we can just say this 1/18 equals a 5% chance of you getting a 6 and a 3. equals 7. 1 minus does equals doesn't. So, to add that to this right here. So, what we have here is a 1 and this right here. And what this gives us is a 17 out of 18. Well, what that 17 out of 18 is, that's the dozen, right? So basically, this is the 95% chance of that not happening. Whereas you have that 5% chance of getting that 6 and the 3, but that 95% chance of not getting either of those numbers. So the odds aren't really in your favor with this, but there's a small chance. Okay. Rule 8. The sum of multiple dice is not a linear distribution. So, I guess what we can say about that is, if you were to roll, let's say 6-sided die, more or less you would get, was it the sum of 12?
No.
No.
So I still have the graphs on the board there.
Okay. So this is like the linear graph, obviously, but this is that whole curve. Like, just because, like, you're not always gonna get to like this point. It's not always gonna be the same thing. It's gonna be a curve. Like, something different is gonna happen each time in this curve right here, obviously. Rule 9. Theatrical versus practical. So I have a small chance of getting a 6 if I roll all 6 of these dice, but it's not going to be guaranteed. So, try 1. This is 5. Try 2. Oh, it's a 6. But we can always retry it. Oh, it's another 6.
Yeah, this is what I like to call like the fun part, where it's like, come on, dice, don't.
Oh, it's a 4. A 3. A 3. 6. Let's try this one more time. A 3. A 5. A 2. Another 2. A 1. A 4. So basically what that was meant to demonstrate is it's not guaranteed that you'll get a 6, but obviously it'll happen.
Right. So like the reason we use 6 dice, because you know the probability is 1 in 6 is 1 over 6. So basically what that shows that even on your 6 dice, you're still not guaranteed to roll that 6.
And number 10 is basically to phone a friend. So if you're like struggling on something or having difficulty, just phone a friend.
Yeah. So like in like the college setting, a lot of computer science and math majors take some sort of probability and stat class. So really, this encourages to like make connections with some of your classmates, and if you're really stuck on something, work together with one of them, we'll probably figure it out. So that's what I would say that rule is really for. And now we're going to showcase what we did in the actual program. This was all just lecture, what I would lecture them on. So now let's go over like the programming side of things.
Game objects. So basically what we have in this little hierarchy right here is the objects you put in your world. So like a character, a wall, a background, anything, this is where this all comes in. And how you implement that is through the game objects. So as you can see, 3D objects, effects, light, audio, video, UI, and camera. So. Okay, so you can build a terrain through this, for example. So I was to go here. So as you can see, there's some trees here. You can basically build all of this right here, obviously. And how to do that, basically. Okay. So you go to terrain, well,
No, you gotta be in the hierarchy.
hierarchy.
There we go.
Terrain, and this is where you can kind of change your stuff right here. So if you want to like add stuff to it, you would obviously, like, so if you want to paint stuff, you would use this. If you want to like raise the terrain, you would do that. You can create terrains with that, and you can do all that with it. As you can see, I already have trees in here.
Wait. Oh. Yeah, no, you were not supposed to do that.
Yeah. What happened to them?
Yeah, no, I know. So in Unity, you can layer the windows in any way you want. So and of course, with all that power, it's a double-edged sword. Where it's like, yes, this is what I wanted. Then it's like, okay,
Yeah, I wasn't trying to do it.
it's all good. It's all good. Just give me one quick second.